What's up people, my name is DemoGhost and today I'm here to talk fighting games. Specifically, what fighting games are the most difficult to play. I asked you guys on Reddit and over 500 of you took the time to vote. So thanks for that. You guys voted on what you thought were the most difficult fighting games to play. So here's the results. First up, we got Samurai Shodown. Now no surprise here that this one got the least amount of votes because Samurai Shodown's known for being mechanically pretty simple. There's no real combos to learn outside of maybe canceling into a special move from a regular hit, making it easier to kind of step into the game. But it could still be pretty punishing if you make the wrong move at the wrong time. Next up we have Killer Instinct, which I was pretty surprised about. Now I've never really played Killer Instinct, but from watching it, it looks pretty damn insane. The pace of the matches are really fast, the combos are insane, you can break combos too. But from doing a little bit of research, it seems that there is a combo assist system in place to help people kind of get used to the systems, and a lot of the abilities are pretty easy to pick up as they're only a quarter circle input and much of the characters kind of share the same kind of layout, I guess. Next we have Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur has always been one of those fighting games that I've seen that always seems to be a bit more on the casual side. To me at least. And I haven't played the newest one yet, but it looks pretty damn cool and I hear nothing but good things about it, and it's actually making its round on the competitive scene. But at the end of the day, Soul Calibur still seems to focus more on that single player aspect and just having a really fun time playing a fighting game rather than the competitive complexity of other fighting games. Now Dead or Alive is known for one thing in particular. It's deep and emotionally complex plot and storylines, and also that it's not that hard of a fighting game to get into. It's actually a really fun 3D fighting game that mechanics are relatively simple and with a parry system that makes you feel like if you can read your opponent, you don't have to have all the big complicated combos to actually do well in the game. And while there is still that depth to the high level play of Dead or Alive, it feels a lot easier to just sit down and get into it without having any knowledge or experience with it prior to playing it. Okay, so I was kind of expecting this game to be a little bit further down the list. I mean, not too much further, but a little bit further down, maybe like 3 or 4 places. But to be fair, as far as anime fighters go and even versus fighters, Dragon Ball FighterZ is a pretty simple game. Most of the characters, or pretty much all the characters really, have the same kind of moveset. There's a special ability attached to a quarter circle forward move and a quarter circle backwards move, and maybe a ki blast move. And that's pretty much every character in a nutshell, making it easy to pick up different characters and put different teams together and just really dive into the game. That being said, the high speed of Dragon Ball FighterZ is where the real difficulty comes. When watching high-level Dragon Ball FighterZ players just go at it like Goichi and Sonic Fox, it blows my freaking mind, and I know I'll never be up at that level. But at the same time, it's still pretty easy to pick it up, because it's a Dragon Ball game. It has to be easy to pick up or else people wouldn't play. There's a big fan base for them to reach out for this game. Now, I personally struggle with this game. I have never been good at a single Mortal Kombat game in my life. I even picked up the newest one, 11, and tried to get real into it, and I still sucked at it. I don't know what it is with these games, I just can't. Probably just because they play so much different than other 2D fighters. There's no special move canceling. There's kind of like special move canceling, but it doesn't work the same as it does in like your anime fighters or your Street Fighters or anything like that. It's kind of a weird system where it's like you gotta pre-input, or at least in Mortal Kombat 11, you gotta pre-input like a set of moves like square, square, triangle, and then you'll do the combo. And my mind just can't wrap itself around that. Not to mention that you actually have to hold a button down to block. All in all, it's not really a difficult game to learn, but just because it's so different from everything else, at least I feel personally that it's kind of hard to get into just because I'm so used to playing a certain way and I have to basically throw out all that knowledge that I've acquired from other games when I come to sit down and play Mortal Kombat. Or at least that's what I'm going to say I have to do to justify why I'm so bad at this game. But yeah. So here's another game that I thought would be quite a bit further down the list. Maybe that's just due to the fact that Skullgirls really isn't that big of a fighting game, even amongst the fighting game community. It's a very good game, but not a very big one. That being said, this game is hard as balls. Every single character in this game, it just has so much depth to them. You can even build up a team instead of just fighting with one person solo. You could have a team of up to 3 or a team, I think even of 2. Like, there's just so much depth to this game, and not to mention just mechanical skill that is needed because the combos are insanely long and big. It's a tough game. And while I might have put it down a little bit lower, there are still some pretty tough games coming up on this list. Now, this is one of my personal favorite fighting games, and probably the fighting game that I've spent the most time understanding and learning to try to get good at. And I gotta say, Under Night is definitely a tough game, but at the same time, it feels real easy to get into. It's got a best tutorial and longest tutorial I've ever seen. Not to mention that just all the moves of all the characters just flow real nicely into each other. I think mostly because you can kind of reverse beat with just about almost every character in the game, making it really easy just to combo off of some random hit that you get. But each character has a lot of different moves to learn and just a lot of different advantages and weaknesses to learn. And there's also the gauge system that you have to kind of learn, which is completely unique to Under Night in and of itself, which just adds more complexity to the initial learning process of the game. Although every single mechanic in the game kind of revolves around the gauge system in some way, making it all flow into each other real nicely. Once you start learning one thing, it leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next, and then the next thing you know, you're halfway decent at the game. Or at least you're not going to lose every game. So Street Fighter is an interesting one. I'm not huge into Street Fighter, but I've been playing 5 a bit, but I hear it's the easiest Street Fighter of them all. And a lot of you in the comments were actually mentioning how it's kind of hard to vote about Street Fighter since Third Strike and 2 and even 4 are so much more difficult than 5. 5 is the most lenient game in the series. And I could believe that. I played a little bit of 4 once, and it was very hard for me to pick up, mostly because Street Fighter has this weird timing system to the way combos work. Things don't chain together naturally. When I was talking about Under Night, everything just kind of flows into each other and one move flows into the next. Street Fighter's the opposite. There's very specific timing windows you have to hit to combo and chain these moves together, and at least to me it doesn't really make sense. You really have to sit down and practice it. Now we're getting into the top 5 big hitters of difficult fighting games, and we're starting off with a major one, Marvel vs. Capcom. Now, I've played both Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and 3, but I never got super into it. And that's probably just because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It is a very difficult game. One of the things that makes it most difficult is that it's a versus game, so you gotta learn more than just one character. You gotta learn a team of characters, and you gotta learn how that team synergizes with each other. And unlike Dragon Ball FighterZ, where all the characters kind of have the same sort of moveset to make it a little bit easier to transition from character to character, Marvel vs. Capcom's characters have a little bit more depth and difference to them. Not only that, but each character has different assist options available to them when you select them. So 2 players can both select Wolverine, but both select different Wolverine assists depending on how their team is made or how they want to utilize Wolverine as an assist. I don't really know if he's really used that much as an assist, but that just adds more to the complexity of the game. Not only that, but I hear, because again, I was super young when Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out, so I didn't get too into it, but I hear some of the combos in that game are just insanely precise. You gotta be real precise with your inputs just to pull off those combos. Blazblue, or Blazblue, not really sure, is one of the kings of anime fighters. And it demands that you get good, scrub. Because each character in this game has so much depth to them that they are a game in and of themselves just to pick up and learn. Each character has their own unique mechanics and kind of systems that really makes each character feel like they're unique and different. On top of that, there are a bunch of little mechanics for you to worry about as well. Stuff like crush triggers, barrier blocks, exceed excels. To be honest, I don't know what a lot of this stuff is, because I kinda stopped playing after Blazblue Calamity Trigger. But all these different mechanics that are just kind of sprinkled here and there on top of the insane character depth with the high speed of the game itself all add to make a really difficult game to get into and an even more difficult game to master. That being said, I hope that after Guilty Gear 2020 comes out, they release Blazblue 2021 or something, so I can buy the new one and try it out and play it, because I've kind of been wanting to give Blazblue another shot. And Blazblue Cross Tag Battle doesn't really count. Also, I realized I didn't put that game on the list. It should have been its own separate game. So, I've never played this game before. I'm just gonna have to go off of your guys' words that this game is hard to play. I mean, it's a 2D anime fighter, so I'm sure it's fast-paced, high combo, very momentum-based, very difficult game to play. I'll have to pick up the new one whenever that comes out, but I will take your word on this one that King of Fighters as a series is a pretty difficult game to pick up. Alright, here we go. This is my favorite fighting game of all time. The fighting game that got me into fighting games, Guilty Gear. And my god, is this game a very difficult game to get into. And as is the trend with most of these fighting games on this list, as the newer games have come out, they've gone a little bit more simple. But in the case of Guilty Gear, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Guilty Gear has a bunch of just little small mechanics to it probably didn't even know about. I've played this game since Guilty Gear X2, and I feel like I'm still learning about some of the mechanics that are in this game. There's just so many. You got Blitz, you got Burst, you got weight systems, you got Guts, you got different Oki, you got Roman cancels, and there's different types of Roman cancels, and there's also a Gold Burst. You know, there's just all these little things on top of each character in and of themselves, having a ton of different moves and a lot of combos you gotta learn. You know, you gotta learn different combos for different weights. There's a lot to learn in the game, and it's also a fast-paced anime fighter that it just makes this game really complex. That being said, if you've never played a Guilty Gear game before, it is well worth picking up because it is so damn fun. But yeah, this game definitely deserves its spot at number 2. Alright, and if you couldn't guess what number 1 is, we have the one, the only, Tekken. And I think the best way to describe why this game is so damn difficult to play is really just to tell my story of my experience with picking up Tekken 7. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Fuck off. The move list in this game is just so freaking long. It is so obnoxiously long that it's just intimidating to try to learn this game. And that's just the move list for one character. Not to mention the different mechanics and the fact that Tekken is a 3D fighter, so it just plays and feels different than most of your other fighters that you're probably used to playing if you come from a different fighter. I don't think that Tekken by itself is that much more mechanically demanding than any of the other games in the top 5 of the most difficult games, but it's still mechanically demanding enough on top of the fact that you gotta learn an entire fucking dictionary of moves to be able to play your character properly, or, you know, at a high level at the very least. It's still a fun game to play, but to really take that deep dive in, you gotta be prepared to take a class on how to play this game, because it is immense the amount of shit you need to learn. Anyways, these are the games that you voted on to be the most difficult fighting games to play. Thanks to everyone who voted, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. Now, I know that the polls were pretty generic because I wanted to keep it as a video game series instead of individual video games, since that list would be pretty long. But if that's something you guys are possibly interested, let me know in the comments below. And give me any suggestions for any other polls or videos that you might want to see. And I'll see you guys in the next one.